After we finished our camp, we went to a place called Transkei, and it's real Africa. There's the houses are made of mud, and there's farms everywhere, and it's in the mountains. And it was such a blessing to see that even in such a dry place, that God was still working. In that time, every day we would go 3 or 4 hours up and down the mountains, and we would go to each house and we would evangelize, share the gospel. But to places who knew God, we would also encourage them with the word of God. And so it was an amazing time to see that God can even use people like us to share the word of God. We had worship together. Every day we would invite children to come, and almost 100 children would come every day to sing together and to hear the word of God. And we also had youth service together too. So in that time it was blessing. After we came back to Cape Town, this is a time I'd like to share. It says in Ecclesiastes 3:11, God has made everything beautiful for its own time. He has planted eternity in the human heart, but even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to end. So when Von team was there, we went to this place called Thabo Mbeki, and if there's one word I can say, there was so much spiritual warfare. When we went to this area, our bodies even felt heavy. And when we went to go share the gospel in the houses, there would be witch doctors who were drunk, and they would come and they would come to our service, and then they would make so much noise and chaos. And every time we had service, there would be very few people, but it would be very unorganized, like spiritually unorganized. And our hearts were so heavy for this area. And when Von team left, they only saw the beginning of that place, because although it was the first preschool we built in that area, Buddhists had come in and they started evangelizing to the people, and they brought food and blanket, and they brought all these things, physical things that confused the people. It blinded the people from seeing the truth of God. And so in that place, there was so much spiritual warfare and heaviness. But when Von team left, we got to keep going every night for revival services. And one night, there was a fight, because the community people wanted to use the building, but we wanted to use it for service. And so we lost, and we couldn't have service that night. But the next night, we ran there really fast so that we can take the building. And we started service just like really fast so that the other people couldn't take it again. And we had to stop, because then we realized, why are we having service? Are we having service to keep the building, to say that we are here, or are we having service because we want to worship God? And so as the Spirit settled in that place, and we proclaimed the building for God and this time for God, in that time, even though those leaders were coming in and looking and talking in the back, during that time, God changed it and made it something beautiful. They heard the gospel, and many accepted Christ that night. And that night, we saw miracles, we saw healings, we saw people, they asked us to pray, and then a few days later, they would come back and say, remember how you prayed for us and said, when we said, at nighttime, spirits come to visit us and we can't sleep? Well, we can sleep now, because when you prayed for us, the evil spirits left us. And so we heard so many stories like that, where God was working in such powerful ways in that area. I think when there's so much darkness, God comes in so much light. And so in that time as well, many times it looked like a bad situation, but God would come, and people came to know Christ, but it's so difficult because still they are struggling. So if you could please pray for Pastor Fundo. He's the local pastor there who is leading up that church, and he really needs a lot of prayers, because there are many people trying to take that place, and there are many people trying to also, and many spirits trying to steal the hearts of the people in Thabo Mbeki. So if you could please keep that area in mind and in prayer, be much appreciated. And lastly, we're going to show a short video of what we did in South Africa.